Hello and welcome to the mushroom farm tour. We are here at South River Aquaponics where we get our blue oyster straw logs. And because they're one of our favorite products and customers really like them, I wanted to share with you the behind the scenes. You guys mentioned you wanted to see it, so we made the time. And they've got such a clean operation, really good standard process. That's part of why we carry their product. But partially because of that, they're like, yeah, come down anytime you want. We don't care, you can see the operation. I love working with that level of transparency. And so we're gonna just walk in right now, say what's up to Gio. They're gonna show us a little bit about the farm, where the straw logs come from, and generally just show us what they do here. The hope is that in the future, they've got more than 60 acres here. They've got the mushroom farm. There's some good potential for us to synergize with some of their waste and maybe make a better compost or a future mushroom type product. Beyond the work that they're doing, I'm excited about the future of our relationship, and that's partly why I'm here. So we want to bring you in early on. Who knows, maybe in 5 years we'll look back at this and be like, wow, that was the beginning. But we want to document it, and I want to share the whole thing with you. So let's go in, let's say hi, we'll show you around. So I've worked with Gio for a while now, and when I originally met him, it was just because I was into mushrooms, and I knew he ran the farm, and he offered to show me around. Eventually, we bought the straw logs, but I was most impressed with his facility. When I first started BuildASoil, it came from my garage. No SOPs, no like processes and binders, and he's got every system for growing the mushrooms, organic approved on every step of the way. And so I've got a lot to learn from them, and I want to show you. Hey, Gio.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Doing well?
Good.
Thanks for having me over here.
Nice to see you, man. My name is Gio Mendoza. I'm the Director of Operations for South River Aquaponics. We started probably about 6-7 years ago. Yeah, and then we decided to go into the mushroom business as well. So we grow different type of mushrooms.
So part of what I wanted to relay home was that the mushroom tent that we have at BuildASoil, when I first came here, I saw them exhausting all of their air from the mushroom grow into the aquaponics grow. And it was clear that the CO2 was of benefit. And it's not like we're doing the best job of documenting it like a true side-by-side where we're bringing the CO2 in and really getting a standard increase, but I know that the extra CO2 is beneficial. The mushrooms make it, and this is the first time I ever saw it in actual production, and I just thought, man, they're utilizing their waste everywhere they have an opportunity, and I want to do more of that at BuildASoil. And so that's part of the things that I've learned here and why I wanted to bring you down.
We're gonna go to the lab. Dave is our science officer.
Okay.
So he might be working on that one, probably working with some tissue samples and see how he creates the spawn and everything from the beginning. Check it out. The lab is right here.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
Okay.
Thanks for having us in here.
Well, you bet. Glad to have you guys here.
Okay, so we're here in the lab, and Dave runs the lab, and so he's gonna show us a few techniques. The reason why he's gonna show us from the beginning is because this is where everything starts. And it's just like when I show you how to garden, we end up taking a clone, we keep it for later, and then that becomes the keeper. Similarly so, he's going to actually duplicate and begin the whole process that starts the mushroom right here.
This is a laminar flow hood because, of course, we're working with funguses and molds. We've got to stay as sterile as we can, and we don't want dust particles from the room, which are just ubiquitous, to come in and contaminate our plates. Because these petri dishes are where we start our cultures, our library of different varieties of mushrooms that we want to grow. So the laminar flow hood captures air not only up here and filters it, but it also filters it through a HEPA filter, which captures tiny, tiny particles. And so I'm working in a very, very clean airstream. So what we have right here, two varieties of mushroom that we work with a lot. This is an oyster mushroom or one of the pleurotus family mushrooms. This is a nice little block of shiitake, delicious culinary mushroom, but we also use it. We also extract medicinal properties out of that.
And we've grown some of those and shown our customers at the BuildASoil store.
Yeah.
And then recently I actually ground them up into a powder and we fed it in a compost tea and we had really good results. So that's part of what I wanted to talk to you guys about later.
So you've taken this and ground it up and put it into your soil.
Yep, just for experimental, but really good results.
Yeah.
So.
The mushrooms never continue or never fail to surprise me. So let's just start a couple of tissue samples. We're going to open it up. We're going to open this up and get into a sterile area of the mushroom right below the leaf and take a little bit of a sample, like right there. This is the mycelium, basically, of the mushroom. Put that on our petri dish, right there, and that's going to grow, all right? and that'll pretty much fill out the entire petri dish.
Now, what's in the petri dish? Is that agar?
This is agar. We'll do the same with the shiitake. We're going to get a sterile piece of mycelium of the mushroom. All right, now we've got 2 mushrooms that we can start to grow. And once these fill the petri dish with mycelium, we can take that and liquefy it in basically a sugar solution. So we'll let that incubate for about 2 weeks. Then we're going to take that, put it in a sugar solution, make a liquid inoculant. And then I'm going to take one of these bags of sterilized organic oats, open it up, and I'll essentially inoculate this bag with the liquid solution of mycelium that we've grown on the petri dish. After another couple weeks, 10 days, we end up with something like this. So this entire bag has grown through with the mycelium of whatever mushroom we inoculated it with, all right?
Yep.
From here, we take the next step to begin growing this particular mushroom on either straw or sawdust, which depending on which mushroom we've grown here. This is oyster, so it'll go on the straw that we'll see in the next room. You know, when I give the boys a bag of mycelium ready for inoculation, then we're ready to harvest about a month later.
And to bring it full circle for all of you, if you're looking at like some of our mushroom products where you can grow it on your own, we have these domes and the black trays. What you'll get is you'll actually start with a bag of grain like this as well, a sterilized grain spawn bag. And then they'll go online and they'll buy their favorite spore syringe. That's already from the petri dish, already in the sugar solution, and they get the syringe and then they either inject into the grain, into a jar, there's many different texts from there. From that point, then they take it, put it in the bulk substrate. There's many recipes for that, many different types of varieties of mushrooms that will require different types of bulk substrate. So those are all the steps that he's showing us. And ultimately, we're gonna show you the blue oyster. That was the one that grows on the straw, right?
Right.
Where some of these will go on to wood chips, saw. There's different ways to feed the mushrooms, but it all starts right here.
This is really where it all begins. Okay. And it's also where we do some of our extractions. Jeremy, you've been real helpful with us at BuildASoil to let us sell some of our mushroom extractions. So this is a bird's nest fungi, which is a little bit different kind of mushroom that can be extracted. And many mushrooms, they've got antioxidant benefits, they've got anti-tumor benefits. They're filled with beta-glucans is what we're really looking for. It's a polysaccharide that benefits many different types of health conditions, yep, from cardiovascular to mental.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I'm so for it is I already take them every day. So if you don't know, one of the tenets at BuildASoil is Kaizen, constantly improving ourselves, every day getting better. And one of the things that I do that I don't talk about much is on the personal development side, eating as healthy as I can. We've got the vegetable farm, having a routine in the morning to make sure that I get like a protein shake or something to kick it off right. And in there, I use their mushroom extracts, I use mushroom powders. And right now, people are talking about fear from disease and health and all that. And it's a normal conversation now to talk about, well, how do we boost our immune system? How do we be as healthy as possible? For me, I was really lucky. That was ingrained in me since I was a child. You just take care of yourself. And I've known that mushrooms are a big part of that. It's only now in the last 5 years that I've really understood how powerful they are. And only now that I feel like I'm just scraping the surface of what they can do, you know?
Yeah, it's really, mushrooms are really kind of on the front line of the health discussion right now, yep, in many different categories. And you're right, we're just beginning to really understand what this organism has developed over evolutionary time and how we can tap into it for our own benefit. We will inoculate about 200 pounds of straw, okay, from say 3 of these bags, all right? That will turn into 500 pounds of mushroom, easily.
This is the law of nature that I love. It's like when you look at nature and why I was so enamored, I grew up in a cul-de-sac, and then the first time I grew a plant, I'm like, you mean I put 1 potato and 20 come out? Nature is abundant, and so to see it just prolifically, not doubling, but like 10xing at every step of the way, it's no wonder that a lot of us want to tap into that abundance. And so let's go see it. Not only does it start here, but we end up using it in our garden, full circle.
He's the face of the
I'll work hook him into the conversation. And to explain this part, here's Gio.
Yeah.
So these guys work really, really hard. They're pasteurizing our straw. We talked about pasteurization versus sterilization. Yep. For the grain and the sawdust, we do a sterilization in these big autoclaves. But for the straw, all you have to do is pasteurize. All you have to essentially do is cut the bacterial load down low enough so that a healthy mycelium from those grain bags can win out the competition for nutrients, all right, and avoid any contamination.
This is part of why we offer it, not just because of the mushrooms, but even if we had to do this just for the mulch layer, we've had commercial grows that are worried about bringing in straw that might have contaminants to their really expensive commercial facility they just get approved license for. And they've actually worked with us to do this and literally just send the moistened, pasteurized straw to the grow so they could use it. And when the employees grab it and spread it, it's moist, it doesn't get all in their face, and it's not in the plants. And it's also has no weed seed and no fungus gnats or issues or predators because it's all been pasteurized. You offset mentally a lot of the problems there. Obviously the mushrooms growing on it was a huge benefit to me. I thought this is about the mushrooms and when I used it as straw. And then I was like, man, this is so nice. It's all moist. There's favorite straw to use, and our customers, they say the same thing. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's really a neat product, and we've really appreciated you using that for the purposes that you have. Yeah. It's at this point, I mean, you're talking a really clean, nice product.
But it'd be a waste to do this much just for mulch. So I like that we get all the benefit after you've actually used it to grow something so beneficial.
Absolutely. Well, it's not a complex setup, but it really works in a very neat way. So these barrels are filled with water. The guys come in, turn the heaters on in the morning. We'll get it up to 160 degrees, all right? And then the straw drops down in these bags. These bags are filled with our organic straw. Straw drops down in there and sits for an hour and a half, something like that. Then it's dropped on the table, cooled to 90 degrees or below, because you don't want to inoculate the mushrooms above 90 degrees because you'll just kill them. That's why humans don't have too many fungal diseases, is because we're 98.6 degrees. So we're above that temperature threshold that most mushrooms thrive at. Good quality straw, and then a cool, and then an inoculation with those grain bags that you saw in the lab. And they'll sprinkle that on after it cools down, mix it up, and put them into the bags that we're going to see next.
One of the other things I wanted to mention about this process is he mentioned 160 degrees. And if it goes way too high, you're actually going to kill off some of the benefits. Same in compost. 160 degrees is the temperature for compost, the maximum you want to get. The benefit, the perfect level is a little below that. You want to start turning the compost. So I just thought it was interesting there's correlation there.
These are basically the bags we saw in our lab. You can see the mycelium that grew through there. We now have literally hundreds of thousands of mushroom mycelial hyphae that will be spread, mixed in, and then bagged into plastic bags that will incubate and eventually grow mushrooms. All right, so step 2. So mushrooms grow on lots of different things. People think about mushrooms growing on fertilizer a lot, and some commercial mushrooms are grown in fertilizer pits. For the mushrooms that we grow, these are wood decomposers, basically. So we're growing on sawdust for the shiitake, for instance, or straw for the oyster, from different local sources. So we're able to help out our local cabinet makers that just don't have any place to go with their sawdust, but we'll take it and grow mushrooms and trade them back some mushrooms for their sawdust, or buy the sawdust, and it works out great for everybody.
That's great.
Yeah. Mushroom house, where we take the straw logs that you saw being made, they get incubated in here. The sawdust shiitake logs get incubated in here. And what's cool about that is, we'll go through the greenhouse in a minute, but what's cool about that, Gio and I have talked about using the carbon dioxide that the mushrooms produce when they decompose the wood, pumping that over into the greenhouse. It's really quite amazing the difference in the foliage growth we can get if we add CO2 versus not. So here we've got a free source of CO2 from our mushroom production that we can put in the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, come on in. So as you can see here, we've got big humidifiers We raise our mushrooms at about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 or 85% humidity.
All right.
These are the sawdust or the straw logs that are being inoculated in the previous run we looked at.
Yeah.
This right here is just a tiny, it's called the pinning stage of the oyster mushroom. And what's actually happening, it's kind of cool, what's happening in this log is that the mushrooms are developing in the straw. They're building up a lot of carbon dioxide in there. It's almost getting toxic. It'll be several thousand parts per million carbon dioxide inside this bag. So when you cut a little hole, which we do after we bring them in here, the mushrooms rush to fresh air and humidity. And that's how they know, that's how they come out these little holes that we got.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And that's what the pin will begin to grow into, is a cluster. We'll let these get a little bit bigger. This room has been recently filled, so a lot of these logs aren't growing mushrooms yet. Here we've got a cluster going. So, you know, we want to see that we're getting some pins, and we want to see that some of those pins are turning into nicer clusters, and then we'll follow the cluster and get it to the size that is marketable. We want to make sure that the bags are staying nice and white, and we're not seeing contamination. It's almost impossible to avoid any sort of contamination from time to time. You'll get a you'll get a mold in there, but if we see that, then we can take it out and we protect the rest of the room. Gio, where do we sell most of our mushrooms?
Vitamin Cottage, Natural Grocers, and different restaurants in Aspen, Carbondale, Grand Junction, Telluride, a couple of now in Montrose.
Right.
I remember when I first went to the Natural Grocers and their product was fully approved, organic, and on the shelf. And I was like taking pictures of Natural Grocers. I was like, that's right here in Montrose. That's so cool. I look up to you guys. I mean, you brought a really good product to market and do a really good job at quality control, and pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I get to start it in the lab. The boys make it. Gio gets on the phone and sells it. It's really growing into a good business. And we really enjoyed moving it into a different market. BuildASoil.
Yeah, I hope we can do more. A lot of our customers are into their own human health too, and I think a lot of what you do will start to cross over there. And as people build a soil, ultimately the reason I started is it's really to build myself, the soil. You grow cannabis for medicine, you have food that's really medicine as well. And mushrooms are, I mean, probably better medicine than those combined for specific reasons. So, there's so much synergy.
Jeremy, we sell you a lot of these bags.
Yeah.
So when they're spent and we're done, we'll get 2 flushes essentially of mushroom. And then we'll take these down to Jeremy at BuildASoil, and it's generally a nice, fully myceliated bag like that that's ready to put into a compost process. Is that right?
It's so good that actually our customers report back to us, especially this time of the year where it's a little bit cooler out and it's not so hot. The bag will get to them, they'll open the box, and there'll be a full harvest of oyster mushrooms in the box when they get it. They're like, freebies!
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've heard that back.
It makes sense because it's not like you can go for that third flush where it may not be as productive for the room, and then sometimes our customers win. Either way, it's a really good product, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yep, this is what we use in the 10x10. This is what I add as the top dressing to the mulch. And a lot of people are trying to find ways to add fungal dominance to their soil, and the hope is to one day move towards fungal dominance where you see like a higher canopy rainforest or a full production forest versus the barren, deserted soil that it was at one point. And so as we start to look at soil, a lot of times growers will say, hey, how can I get some of that fungal bacterial balance? Because a lot of the annual flowering plants that we grow live in the middle there, where there's a little bit of that bacterial and fungal happening in the soil. And it seems to be common knowledge that that's good. This is cool. Here's the humidity. I've seen many ways of doing this, but this is a pond fogger in here with a computer fan. And you can go onto our website. We drop ship these. And you can also go to, forget the name of the website, but there's a guy that sells like pond foggers where you make your own system, and they really, really work. I like the commercial humidifiers, and you see all their other mushroom rooms, they're all like plumbed in. It's pretty cool how they do it.
You know, and it's not super high tech, but it does a great job.
Yeah.
Because shiitake, a little different type of mushroom, you know, wants a 90% humidity.
Oh, wow.
So we take that up pretty high when these are ready to start fruiting. Here's a log that's really just getting started. So these are very productive sawdust logs. So this isn't straw. You end up with a sawdust log that's solid mycelium.
That's incredible. So we've been growing these in the tent.
Okay.
And obviously the higher humidity in here, it's looking really good. We were able to do pretty well and get good flushes off of them. But I never opened it to see how myceliated that log is.
It's completely grown through. And one thing that we haven't talked about, or that we've kind of talked around a little bit, particularly with the oyster mushroom, is their ability to bioaccumulate heavy metals and some toxins out of a garden soil.
Interesting.
So yeah,
So using the blue oyster straw log on a soil,
right.
that fungus might help. Now, to actually remediate, doesn't it have to fruit?
Yep, it's called microremediation.
So we could maybe get a whole grow to get at the ideal humidity and temperature where that bed would fruit and pull them out.
I think so. I think we totally could do that. Okay. And if you'll spend a little time on the web, you'll see that people are using straw logs exactly like that to, for instance, when there's these fires out in California and they burn through a subdivision. Those chemicals, you know, it's a tragic situation, but all those toxins from that burn are washing down the hill into the watershed. All right. So if you stack those straw logs, we call them wattles at that point, and they capture that toxic water, those mushrooms will pull those toxins out of the water. You know, it takes a huge amount. The scale of being able to clean an entire watershed is huge. But mushrooms do have the ability to do that. That's very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Thanks for showing us. This is really neat. Look at that. It looks like Mario Brothers. All right, so now we're going into the aquaponics greenhouse.
This was the beginning of South River Aquaponics, was this aquaponic greenhouse. Aquaponics is nothing more than the marriage of aquaculture or fish farming and hydroponics, okay? And these are tilapia. These are some really big tilapia that we've had for quite a while. The trick about aquaponics is the fish produce waste, of course. That waste is captured and recycled through a biological filter. These little plastic rings have a lot of surface area, if you look at them, for bacteria to grow on. This is a nitrobacter, and it will work with other bacteria and change the ammonia from the fish waste into nitrates, which immediately flood out through the greenhouse and feed the plants. So the plants suck up all the nutrients that the fish are producing, and in essence they clean the water and we're able to recycle it back to the fish. So the only water in this 14,000 square foot greenhouse that we need to replace the only fresh water is evaporation. So we're growing almost an acre's worth of greens on 14,000 square feet of land with only 500 gallons of water a day, because it's all a recirculation system. So our macronutrients come from the fish. The plants clean the water and bring it back to the fish. We can add micronutrients through foliar sprays, things like that, and it works really, really well. And then, of course, like we talked about, we can bring CO2 from the mushrooms into here. And at the end of the day, the only thing we're really throwing away is those plastic bags that we grow the mushroom, that we put the straw in for the mushroom.
Yep.
And very quickly we're gonna move to a biodegradable plastic.
And one day we'll be able to just disintegrate all plastic with some special mushroom.
Exactly.
But right now it's a big problem, so I get it. I feel hypocritical at BuildASoil, where I'm like, for the earth, and we have plastic packaging. And it's kind of a necessary evil at this point.
It is, but I think there's a future in plastic that's going to biodegrade. Yep. And you're right. Mushrooms actually, under certain conditions, will feed on petroleum products. So as that technology is developed, they could play a role in helping clean up the plastic problem.
Well, especially if we make bioplastics as well, that could even make another step, which is potentially could come from some of the plants we're going to see over here.
Let's take a look. Do you want to look at the herbs or the...
Everything, really. Yeah. All right, so shout out to Timber real quick. You know that we use Timber LEDs in all of our grows. South River came down and they had these old plasma lights, which plasma is a technology. If you noticed, Gavita was selling their double-endeds. To get full spectrum, they would sell a plasma to go with it. I could be getting that wrong. There's other companies that were doing it. But that was what they sold you. And a lot of times growers were like, screw that, I'll just get a CMH or an LED to go full spectrum. So fast forward, we got these timber cobs. Same thing that I'm using basically. That's 100 watt. We've got the 50 watts on the section 2 and the 10 by 10. And so we're talking about replacing a few more of them, but that extends the daylight in here enough where they can get what they want out of it. It's pretty cool.
So in the geographic region we're at here in western Colorado, there has been a big push to grow hemp. And we've contracted with some of the local farmers that are growing hemp to start their seedlings and or grow some hemp ourselves. This is industrial hemp, non-THC.
And is this for the CBD, right? Not the fiber?
Yes, this is a CBD, but you can see the root systems that develop underneath here just dropping down into the water and soaking up the nutrients that are coming from the fish. We're actually capturing a medicinal product called fridolin out of these root systems and getting that lab tested so that we can extract that and put it into a pain relieving
Oh,
salve.
that's amazing. Because people don't use the roots very often of this plant. Right now the highest and best use was flower, and then that's kind of going by the wayside. So I mean there's so many different little things that you could do. It's pretty cool.
So this is all hemp. We've got some herbs over here in the towers.
Let's go take a look at the herbs.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, before you even begin, I see you're using LEDs and it's going vertical. And it looks like, what, drain to waste?
Right. So
Or no, not to waste, it goes right back in the aquaponics system.
it goes right back to the aquaponics. So these are starts that eventually could be transferred over into the deep water baths, or we can just grow them right here, and you can see that they come in and harvest a little bit every day, and it grows right back. So we've got cilantro, we've got rosemary, we've got basil. You know, if you think about what's one of the fundamental problems in agriculture, it's the availability of good quality land and water. So aquaponics tries to answer that a little bit by being able to grow on a small amount of land with a little bit of water. We talked about that. But here in this case, we're also going vertically. Yeah. So we're stacking this up, and with the right lighting and the right plumbing system, it's amazing how much production we can get out of this stack of 6 or 7 herb trays.
Now you guys know me, I like soil, right? We've got BuildASoil Family Farms, the BuildASoil way. We do it the same thing on our farm. All soil, we test it, no hydroponic whatsoever. But I'm still fascinated by every type of growing that there is, the intricacies, what we do to actually, how these plants control our lives, basically getting us to do all of this just to help them out, to help us. And so when I'm seeing the vertical, the low water use, all that, I obviously see the benefits to it. So if you've heard me say I don't like aquaponics or hydroponics, take it with a grain of salt. I appreciate what everyone does. If it was my choice, I'm gonna be in the soil as much as I can, because that's like what I'm known for, that's my favorite thing. But I also wanna show you everywhere there is to do things, especially when there is a recycled, synergistic benefit to the process. And it very, very much goes with the BuildASoil model. So
I think that's a good point. We certainly can't grow everything in an aquaponics model, but what I think I like about agriculture in general is its innovative ability. And so you take people that are interested in something like this, you put it together with expertise like we have through Jeremy at BuildASoil, and you can take the best of both worlds and really come up with some neat stuff for agriculture.
very cool.
Yeah, the herbs that can come out of this greenhouse, if we fill the whole thing, are just amazing. We grow quite a bit of basil, and we have it coming on in stages. Yeah.
So we're ending up the walk around, the tour, if you will, of South River Aquaponics. And I kind of want to end up with allowing Gio to share a little bit about the vision of where we're headed, as well as maybe how you can get products or interact with them. If you're into aquaponics, they're experts at that, right? And I'm not. We do carry some of their mushroom tinctures, which I believe are the best on the market. So I'll let Gio talk about it a little bit.
SouthRiverAquaponics.com. Okay. That's when they can get a hold of us. And then we have a new line of products that is going to be available in different places. Especially, we have capsules, supplements. They're going to have like an immunity system and some other things.
They've been tinkering with the ingredients for the last year and sharing me some of the capsules. And I'll tell you that they are weirder about their ingredients almost than I am. So I'm really looking forward to what they produce. It's going to be really good quality. They've even taken some of my feedback. So it's pretty cool to see the whole thing kind of come full picture here. So full circle.
And then some of the visions of South River Aquaponics is feed some other people. So we've been working with a college in El Salvador, actually in Central America. I was born and raised down there. Cool. They're actually building small aquaponic systems, and actually they have a class now in that college, and I was able to go back in June and look at some of the projects that they have. And the project is start feeding people outside the city when they need food.
That's really
and they don't have enough space to grow it. That's some of the projects that we have right now.
That's really cool. I love it. The vision when I started BuildASoil was one day to maybe affect real soil, not just potting soil. And so here I am, started this in my garage, and I'm like, you're going to El Salvador to teach aquaponics, to actually provide food for people? There's like levels to this, and as BuildASoil grows up, we really want to get a little more involved in the food production side. And to hear they're already doing it, it's kind of re-bringing back the fact that the reason why I'm here is we look up to them. They've got sophisticated processes in place. They're doing food production, medicine production with the mushrooms. And so we can all learn from each other, and I just really appreciate you having me down here today.
No,
thank you so much. It was
you
really, really good.
You bet.
Awesome, yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming down here today, walking around with us. It was really fun to show behind the scenes at a local business that we've been working with for a while, bring those products to you, and now I hope that when you grab your blue oyster straw log, maybe you try a mushroom tincture for the first time. My favorite is the cordyceps and the lion's mane. Check them out. But maybe when you do that, you'll understand when you open that bag what you're actually accessing to put in your garden. To get that on your own, you'd have to get the petri dish, to the grain bag, to the pasteurized straw, grow the mushrooms. So for what it's worth, I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I hope that we can do more off-site visits with some of more of our partners in the future. If you like this, let us know. If you want more content like this, let us know. Put it in the comments. Ask questions. We have them as a resource. They'll be happy to answer some of these questions right here in the YouTube with us, for us. And as always, if you liked what you've seen here, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you on the next episode.